What program is that?
It's called Screen Capture Tool. It's what I use to record all my lectures.
I just use QuickTime Player.
But yeah, is yours on a Mac?
What?
Are you doing screen captures on a Mac?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is the one I've used for years, and I've always had pretty good luck with it.
Because you can do the sound and the screen at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give myself a placeholder guy here. And then we'll kill off this guy. We'll just say best hands here like this. Now, have you done custom cells for table view similar to collection view?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we'll just get our standard table view thing set up here just as a reference, and then we'll do a parallel sorting thing. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to embed this table view here. And let's go ahead and give ourselves a table view controller for this. I'll create a new file. Cocoa Touch class. UI table view controller. We'll call this guy best hands TVC for table view controller. Okay. And go ahead and update a couple things in here. We're going to say that there's one section, and just initially, let's say there's 10 rows. We'll just put a bunch of blahs in there for right now. We'll call our reuse identifier cell just like we would for our collection views. So now let's go and let our storyboard know about this dude. Alright, so this guy is one of these guys. And this cell uses a reuse identifier for cell. All right, let's go ahead and run this, and we should see, I think, 10 blahs or something right now, just to make sure our table view is set up right. So here's our best hands. So there's our blahs. Okay. Do need to update our layout here. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two different, actually let's go ahead and let's get a custom cell going here just so we have two different things we can put in there. So you have that to work with. Actually, you're just going to have the name of the hand, or like the details of the hand, so just one string and then the value.
Yeah.
So just those two pieces of information. You don't need any more than that?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so we actually don't need a custom cell unless you want to color code it. So are you going to be doing any color coding stuff, or are you just going to just get the information in there first?
I'll be color coding the word.
Okay. Okay, well, so let's go ahead and do it as a custom cell just so we have the flexibility. Well, actually, I want to show you the parallel arrays first. So we won't do a custom cell yet. Let's just do the normal plain Jane thing. So I'm going to click on this cell here, and for the style, I'm going to choose subtitle. So what subtitle does is it gives us a main heading and then something we put underneath it, like the score. All right, and just to kind of show you how that works, I'll come back in here because there's a couple different built-in. There's a. My Amazon Echo is screaming at me behind me. All right, so let me click back on this guy. Notice here we have basic, which just gives you one line of thing. You have write detail, which will let you put something on the left and then a value on the right. So maybe you want to put the score on the right. Similarly, left detail. And then you have subtitle where it goes underneath it. So maybe we decide we're going to use right detail like that. And then we can come in here and we can put in... So we have blah, and then it's cell.detail, text label.text is equal to here. I'll just randomly put a score in there for right now just so you see what it looks like. So there's your text, and then there's your score next to it. So that might be the way we go to try to do this, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create two different arrays here. So parallel arrays are typically arrays that are the same length but have different types of information in them. So almost think about them as like the predecessor to objects. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say we're going to have an array of numbers. So let's call it scores. So we're going to say var scores is equal to an int array.
Yeah.
And then we'll say var hands is going to be a string array. All right, and I need to go ahead and generate some random numbers. So let's just do for I is equal to 0, I is less than, let's say 20, I is I plus equals 1. And then we'll say scores dot append. We're going to put a new element in here, and let's see, random number generator for is it just that? Let me quickly look up random int in Swift. All right, is it arc for random?
Yeah, and then you do modulus,
yeah.
Whatever, and then you want to go to.
I thought that Swift had a new one.
I don't know. That's what I looked it up, and that's what it was.
Okay. So this guy is going to give me a number in the range of all integers. So let's have it give us a score between 0 and 100. So we'll mod this by 100 and add 1 to it. Yeah. Okay. So we'll append that there. Now that guy, it looks like it's giving us a 32. Okay, that's fine. So we'll say give me the int version of this guy. So what is this? For I in 0 dot dot 20. So 3 dots. All right, then we need to take let's just convert this guy to a int. That should do it. All right, it's telling me.
You don't have to do the +1.
Well, the +1 will give me, I guess we don't have to. It'll just give us the right numbers. So we'll append that value, which is going to not be an int initially. Yeah, the problem is it gives us a uint 32. So this value right here gives us a uint 32. So what we want to do is we want to turn that guy into a plain Jane int. I think that should.
Yeah, mine is. You don't need the int, I guess. Like it works without the int.
Well, it won't, because I'm trying to store this inside of an array.
Oh, maybe do int and then colon?
So right there. Cannot be applied to operators of type U. So this is an unsigned 32-bit int and an int. So really, this is what we can do is we could say mod. Okay, so it doesn't like me going that direction. So then it should be okay with this. Okay, so it's okay with that being an int. And then we're going to mod that by 100. It should be okay with that. Okay, there we go. Now at the same time, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put into our hands, we'll say hands.append. And we'll give it a string and we'll call this guy hands I. Like that. Okay, so now we know there's going to be 20 things in scores as well as hands. So these guys both have the exact same length. So what we'll do is we'll come down here and instead of saying 10 here, we'll say self dot, doesn't matter if we say scores or hands. And then down here, for our text label, we'll say self dot hands at bucket index path dot row, and this guy will be the string representation of self dot scores at bucket index path dot row. All right, so we should see that we have these guys. It's extremely unlikely that they're sorted. Okay, so there's our hands over there, and then there's our random numbers. Now, ideally, so this is like we've gone through our, in this case, 20 different hands, 20 different possibilities, and we've calculated a score against our current hand. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to go through and we want to sort this, sort our scores array. But every single time we move something in our scores array, we want to make that same move inside of our hands array. That way those two arrays get sorted together. That make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So let's just use a pretty common sort here called insertion sort. There are built-in sorting algorithms. So for instance, you can say scores dot sort, and now if we run this guy, hands didn't change, but scores did. So this won't quite work for what we need it to work for, because even though we have sorted scores, our hands didn't change position.
Right.
Okay, so using the nice built-in guy is not really going to help. There are some conveniences where you can build like comparators that will kind of pull this off, but I like to keep it relatively, I guess, simple. So we're just going to write our own sorting algorithm. So I'm going to come in here and we're going to, say func insertion sort. Okay. And what we want to do is we're going to have this guy sort our scores. But anytime it does something to our score, it's going to change something in our, it's going to make that same change inside of hands. Okay? So the way insertion sort works is we start at bucket 1 in the array, and we test everything before that. And we make sure everything, it really should be called a bubble sort, but bubble sort actually is a different one. But what we do is we take each value and we try to move it as close to the front as possible. So if I show have you seen this one before?
No, but I know about buckets.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and let's just write this guy real quick. So we know we're potentially going to test all the values from bucket 1 up until the length, not including the length. So we're going to say for I in 0 ... Then we're going to say, actually, I'm going to call it something other than I here in a second. So we're going to say up to self.scores.count. And I'm going to actually call this guy cur start. So cur start is going to start at position 1 and go up to, but not including, the count on scores. Okay? Now, each time through, what we want to do is we want to bubble the value at position cur start as far up as we possibly can. Okay? And we don't want to change the value of cur start. So what we're going to do is we're going to create another variable here. I like calling him the follower. So we can say this guy starts off at -1 for no good reason. And then what we'll say right here at the beginning, we'll say follower is equal to cur start. All right. So we always start follower off at the same position as cur start. That way we can change follower as we move towards the beginning of the array. But we're not allowed to change cur start because cur start has to remember where we left off. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to swap the current element with the guy before me as long as the guy before me is less than me. Okay? So we want to ask a couple of questions. We want to say, while there's a guy before me, okay, so that is while follower is greater than, we could say greater than or equal to 1, that means there's a guy before you.
How could you do greater than 0?
You can. They say the same thing. So while follower is greater or equal to 1, and self dot scores at bucket follower is less than self dot scores at bucket follower -1. So this says while there is a guy before me and and the current guy we're looking at is less than the guy before me, we need to swap.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to give ourselves a we'll call this temp int. Start that guy off at -1 as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to say temp int.
We're sorting from lowest to largest?
Lowest to largest, yep. So we'll say temp int is equal to self dot scores at bucket follower. Let's do follower minus 1. Doesn't really matter. Then we'll say self dot scores at bucket follower minus 1 gets the value of self dot scores at bucket follower. Then we'll say self dot scores at bucket follower is equal to temp int. So that does our swap. And then we say follower minus equals 1. So follower follows. So when we do a swap, the follower follows the guy we just swapped back. And then we try to swap again. That makes sense? Yeah. Now, every time we do this, now we'll just kind of test our insertion sort first just so we see it work. So every time we do this, we're going to take the current value of curstart and bubble him up towards the front of the list as far as we can. As soon as we're done, as soon as we either are at the beginning of the list or we should not swap anymore, we fall out of that while loop and move on to the next value of curstart. Okay? So if I come in here, let me just run this again real quick and we'll see that our values are not sorted. Yeah, I just want to refresh our memory that the values are not currently sorted, and then I'll call our sort function. All right, so out of order. Now we'll call self.insertion sort, which should sort our scores.
But not hands.
Correct, not hands yet.
Well, we would know.
Correct, but as long as we see our scores in the right order, I think we should be in decent shape here. All right, index out of range. So this guy must be, I think it's that. So that ... must be inclusive. There we go. So that seems to sort them. Have you seen these operators I'm using here, the ... and the ... less than? You have? Okay. All right, so this sorts them. So now all we need to do here is we're going to have a var temp string. Start that guy off as the empty string, that's fine. And when we do our temp int, we'll say temp string is equal to self.hands at bucket follower minus 1. Then we'll say self.hands at bucket follower minus 1 is equal to self.hands at bucket follower.
I think it might be hands.
Oh, did I call it hands? That's hands.
Oh, but for some reason it's not.
Well, I misspelled follower, that's why. And then we'll say self.hands at bucket follower is equal to temp string. All right, so now anytime we swap something in our scores, we're going to swap the same stuff in our hands. So now we see our hands are seemingly jumbled up, but they are the hands that went with our lowest, or our lowest to highest. I assume that your thing for your scores is going to be highest to lowest.
But that should be pretty easy to fix.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just this guy in here. If it's greater than the guy before it, then you do the swap. All right, so there's our big values, little value, and the hand that's associated with it up top. Okay, so that's what you can do for your hands. Now, you can go ahead and implement that now for your the 7 that you have, just so you get your logic. And then what you can do is after they click on one of these guys, you're going to take them to another screen. So what you want to start doing is you want to start getting a functional prototype in place as soon as possible, because then you can go back in and if you just sit down for a couple of hours or whatever, you can write all of those. Well, it's probably going to be more than a couple hours. It's going to be a lot of grunt work, which is why I asked if there was a more algorithmic way of testing against all the different hands. But that's going to be a lot of grunt work to write all of those tests against coming up with a score for the 60 different hands. But you know that you can do that. It's just time, right? So your best bet, in my estimation, is to go ahead and finish writing the app based on the scores that you have currently for the 7 different hands. Find the best matches, and then go back in and fill in the rest of the details for those hands, the hand testings for scores. So what we'll do here then is we're going to have, when they click on, this is the best chance hand. So a smart player would say, okay, well, my score of 87 here says that my current hand is the closest to hand 5. So I'm going to click on hand 5, and that's going to take me to the next screen, right? Okay, now what's that next screen going to look like? So let's well, do you have any questions about this parallel sorting stuff?
No.
Okay, so I'll make sure I push that. Well, actually, let's leave that here for a second. So let's do this. I'm going to open up the Keynote. And let's kind of think about what that next screen looks like. And while the Keynote's opening, do you already have access to an Apple developer account? Okay, so that's something to talk to Mr. Day about, because the email he sent earlier today, and I think you have a demo here in a couple weeks. Okay. And is the idea that your app should be live in the App Store for the demo, or just on a device for them to see?
Not. I would like it to be, at least I sent it to the Apple, to the App Store, and they're going to put it in maybe in the next few days.
Okay. So with that in mind, do you currently have access to a developer account?
I'm pretty sure I do, but if I don't, I know Mr. Day does.
Okay. So you'll want to get that information as soon as possible, because one thing we might do on let's see, we're meeting on Friday, right? One thing we might do on Friday, hopefully you can get a lot of these next screens done, is we might go ahead and go through the process of pushing a beta, just so we see what that looks like and get all the kinks worked out there, so that we can at least get it to I guess uploaded to what the staging area where it would need to be to actually put it onto the App Store. Now, in a worst case, how many people are going to be at your presentation?
There's a board, so maybe like 20 people.
Okay. Now, one thing we could do is, even if they're not already, for any of them that are iPhone or iPad users, at least, for any of them that aren't, for any of them that are iPhone or iPad users, we can put them on an internal beta test, and we can actually push the app directly to them. It comes in through an email. They just click install, and it goes onto their device. So even though it's not on the App Store, they could actually put it on their actual device if it comes to that. Okay, but the one catch with doing it that way is that we would have to invite all of them as internal testers to the thing. So that's maybe something we can look at on Fridays, just how that whole process works. Have you done any of that before? Okay, so really, I mean, that's the stuff that's probably you're going to need the most introduction to, because the programming stuff, when you see a new concept, you understand it, so you can just work with it. But the whole provisioning profile and certificate stuff is all very weird. So maybe we should plan on kind of looking at that on Friday. So I would say, besides what we're going to talk about here for the next couple minutes, put on your list of to-do, get access to the developer account for our session for Friday, so we can mess with that. Okay. So now, let's think about what this next screen looks like. So, this is our current setup, right? So the enter your hand screen is done, or it's a functional prototype. It's doing what it needs to do. Now we're going to show them their possible target hands. You're able to do it based on 7 of them. So between now and Friday at least, I would say try to get basically what we just wrote, that parallel sorting thing, done for those 7 based on their current hand, so that we have that proof of concept. Now, that's going to take him to this next screen, this interactive tile decision tracker dealie. Now, really, this screen is kind of the meat of your application, right? Everything leading up to that is just about getting to this screen. So let's think about what this screen is actually going to look like. All right, so tell me how you envision this screen working, this tile decision tracker screen.
All right. I wonder how it's gonna work. Do you want me to share my screen?
Sure. Yeah. Why don't you go through the process? So I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll kill my camera too, just so it frees up some bandwidth.
All the tiles that you have, 13 to 14, they're all going to be separate. Here and there. And you'll be able to see below is ideas that you're going for. And here you'll have your tiles. At the bottom it will have round 1. It's just round, it's 15 out. So that's what's happening on round 1. Then up here you're going to be able to select 3 of the tiles, and I would think it would be ideal if I could have them all highlighted and put on the bed, and then after you select it, press enter, you can come over here, and this is what you can do. It can activate it, so you have a selected. And then, if you go to the next page, it would be similar to the last page. You'd be able to enter the tiles that you got. And then after that, it would have to duplicate almost like this page. Except instead of being done 1, it would be done. And so we just keep that the same.
All right, so you don't necessarily envision leaving this screen. You kind of envision there being a constant sorting.
Say it again?
You don't necessarily envision them leaving that best hand screen. You kind of want them on that screen to be able to select the new tiles they get into their hands, and then from there say whether or not this is an improvement, and if you should actually be going for a new target hand, correct? Because every move they make might put them in a position where the current their last known target hand is no longer the best. Okay, so with that in mind, trying to think how that interface is going to work. So when you get when you add something to your hand, so you're kind of thinking, here, let me share it on, let me share my Keynote again. So really, you see a screen that's going to be kind of like this. You can see Keynote now, right? Okay. So then maybe up top here, this is your sorted list of hands, of target hands, something like that. And then beneath here, you're going to have either 13 or 14 tiles, correct?
Wait, is it, this is a different, oh, never mind. Sorry. The target hands are going to be below it.
Oh, the target hands you think are going to be down here.
Yeah, like at the bottom, it's just going to have the list. It's going to have the one that you're going for at the top. Like all of them.
Okay, so the one you selected from here, your current target, you're going to have listed up top here.
Correct.
Okay, so let's get that guy in there. Now, why have that up there as opposed to just having like a check mark against it down here? Like once I select a hand from the list at the bottom here, I mean, I understand that you want to kind of put it up here, but how is this going to work? What am I using this for?
That's just so you don't forget, I would guess.
Okay.
You won't be able to click on anything there.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so that's my current target hand, and then what are you going to have? 13 or 14 tiles down here representing your current state of your hand. Okay. So something like that. You know, you might have more or less of those things there, whatever, for the current state of the hand. Now, this is the hand they originally put in. This is the hand they're dealt, correct? But as the game progresses, their hand changes.
Yes.
So how do you anticipate the mechanics of this part working? So I've now discarded this card. So I need to change that. How do you want that to work?
So I think it's gonna have like a button, and it's actually gonna. I'm not exactly sure how it's gonna work. I think what we have is we have a button, and like the space for the 15th tile is, and say done. So you click on 3 tiles, and then it's done. And then it would go to a different page, similar to the last one where you add 3 tiles. Now, but you're getting 2 more tiles, and then it would just go back to this page, but instead of having it as like the first round of trading was the second round.
Okay, so the idea here would be is this is my current hand that I have here, and maybe I click on this guy or I click on this guy if that's the tile I discarded. So when I click on this tile, I'm saying I'm going to discard this tile. It's going to take me to another screen that looks like the initial tile selection screen, and I get to choose the tile from that I'm replacing it with. And then when I hit done, if I hit cancel, it's just going to take me right back here. When I hit done, it's going to take me to this screen with that tile replaced and a new set of target things down here that I could then choose to. Now, do you reselect your current target hand each time?
I would think you don't have to, but you'd be selecting a different target.
Okay, so what would end up happening, and maybe you would even color code it, where if your current target hand was different than the top hand down here, you might give like a, have it in red or something down below, where it's like change the background color of that cell to kind of let you know that wait a minute, I might need to change my target a little bit, something like that.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess the reason I asked that is whether or not we are coming back to this same version of this screen, or once we leave this screen, when I say I'm discarding this card, or discarding this tile, and I come to screen 2, and I select my new tile, does it create a new version of this screen that does all the recalculation stuff? It sounds like we're coming back to the original screen, which is fine. I think that makes sense. So then what you would have to do then is you would have to put your code in view will appear to score and sort for current hand. Does that make sense? So essentially, as the game goes on, you're manipulating this screen with the option to change your current target hand up top here if something is scoring higher. But what you're really doing manually is you're maintaining your current hand based on what's actually happening in the game. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. So now, does this guy eventually conclude where you finally match this hand? Once you've set this hand to match this guy, is there something that says that you're the winner, or do you just know what's the deal there?
Yeah, I think there should be something.
Because one thing that occurs to me, and I'm not sure this is how it works, but it occurs to me that you could have a situation where you're going for this target hand, but you might, you may have overlooked that you were actually getting closer to a hand that was down here.
Yeah.
Now, when you get to a target Mahjong hand, is the game over, or you could still go for a different target?
That's the game. The game's over.
Okay, so when you hit any of those target things from that list, the game's over.
Yes.
Okay, got it. So you'll have to have some sort of check to see if that stuff works. I probably wouldn't focus on that yet. I would focus on the mechanics of this screen. So getting you from your first screen to this screen, showing you the list of your current stuff, getting the tiles on here of showing your current hand, and then allowing you to swap in and out tiles for your current hand.
Correct.
Does that make sense? Because really, that's the meat of your application. Realistically speaking, I don't know how much time you're going to have between now and Friday, but I would say if your goal is to get this thing mostly done, I would push pretty hard to get all those mechanics working by Friday, so that your time between Friday and when we meet next week is maybe spent writing all those other checks for scoring the different hands.
Yeah, sure.
So that sound like a reasonable approach?
Yeah, I can get this done by Friday.
Okay. Now the other thing, I sent an email a few minutes ago. Before our session, so you can think about it. I don't need to know right now. But Mr. Day suggested we maybe meet earlier next week instead of waiting until Friday, which is okay. Next week's our spring break, which is okay. I'm going to be on the road, but I'll have access to my computer and internet at the hotel. But it'll be easiest for me to meet in an evening some night. Yeah. So why don't you just think about your schedule for that week, and we could talk about it on Friday, so we could pick one of those nights where you're free, and it's going to be a lot easier for me to schedule something at night than it will be during the day because I'm going to have my parents with me, and we're figuring out what we're doing all day and that kind of stuff. So just think about it for Friday, what night might work the best next week, and it's not a problem for me. Okay, so just so we can confirm, we are on for this Friday at 2 p.m. Central, correct? Does that sound accurate to you? Okay. Oh, wait, hold on, Dice.
For some reason,
Oh.
I don't think you can hear me.
Oh,
Okay.
you can hear me now, right? Okay. So this Friday we're on for 2 p.m., correct? Okay, perfect. So, well, 2 p.m. my time, 3 p.m. your time. Okay, awesome. I pushed the code already, so you should have the updated thing with the sort stuff. And I will see you on Friday.
See you then.
All right, bye-bye. Man, you couldn't hear anything he was saying, could you? I think fine. He seemed to respond to everything I said.